Welcome, everyone. This meeting of the Centennial School Board is called to order at 6:31 p.m. on 4/12/2023, and a quorum is present. Hello and welcome. It's great to see everybody hanging in there. I know we got past spring break, so we're coming to the end, fast and furious. All right, at this point, I would like to adopt the agenda. Can I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Excellent. Up next, we've got our introduction of our winter athletes. And would you like to take the mic for that?
Yes, thank you, Chair Solaski. Good to see everybody. So this evening, we have a recognition of our winter athletes that has been put together with a team effort with Chief Rosales Correa, and then also Athletic Director Dante Gouge and Missy Grindle. Those are the people to recognize for getting the slideshow together, and probably Edwin took some of the pictures. There's a couple fuzzy ones in there, so I think those are ones that Edwin probably did not take. Nevertheless, we've got this slideshow, but those are not the stars of the show. The stars of the show are the athletes that we'll be featuring here. So let me go ahead and cue this up. Hopefully it is not too awkward as I get this queued up, and we can do it seamlessly and recognize our winter athletes from Centennial High School. Now, to play this clip, just to make sure, when I play, do I turn my computer audio up, or will it play through?
It will play. It'll play through the screen.
Okay. So
Yay.
that was good, but if you don't mind humoring me, there's an even better version I want to show you. So if you wouldn't mind.
Does it have the name?
It has the names on it.
Yay, good.
I don't know what happened here, but I knew there would be some technical glitch. Chief Rosales Correa, can you help me here? so that was your warm-up. There we go.
Thank you very much.
All right, yes, just a recognition to all of our winter athletes, and in particular, the ones that you saw featured there on the screen with all conference or all state honors. And it isn't just the athletes. We also have parents in particular who are driving their kids to practices and helping out in a variety of ways and volunteering. So recognition not only to the athletes, but to the broader community that supports them in achieving their goals and their achievements. So I'll go ahead and pass it back to you, Chair Slavsky.
Excellent, thank you very much. At this point, we are going to approve our minutes. Do I have to do two separate motions, or can I combine them into one motion? Great. I'd love to hear a motion approving the minutes from March 8th and March 22nd.
Motion to approve the minutes for March 8th and March 22nd.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Unanimous. We have approved the minutes. I did not see anything come through on public forum this time. Next up, we've got some reports. First up, we are super excited to welcome our student representative, Edwin, back. It's great to see you, and I'd love to hear what you've got for us.
Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me all right? Yes. Cool. All right, I'm going to share my screen to pull up my presentation. All right. Can everyone see my screen okay? Cool. All right, so this is kind of a quick one. Just going to be discussing some of the upcoming events that we got going on at Centennial High School. First thing is, this is an urgent one. Tomorrow night we have 8th grade night, which is going to be pretty much like open house, where 8th graders can come in and see the clubs and classes that they can be a part of when they enter in as freshmen next year. And we're also going to have extracurricular activities and sports clubs on display, just showing off what students at Centennial can be a part of. I didn't ask what time it's at, but I do know it's tomorrow night around 5 to 6 is when I believe it begins, but I'm not 100% sure on the details on that. Second, we have our assembly on April 21st. The only thing they have planned so far is the student body elections, where they're going to be discussing the different roles and different positions students can be applying for within student council to be a part of the school. And then also some other announcements as we head into the end of the year. The talent show has been postponed, but they do have plans to bring it back by the end of the month. That's all the information they gave me on that. And also, our teachers versus students dodgeball game has also been postponed, with plans to bring that back by the end of the month. And on May 5th, we will be having our He-Man volleyball game, which is juniors versus seniors, which is kind of the opposite of Powder Puff, if anyone was here for that. That should be a fun one. Next, we have our athlete of the month for this month. I'm not too sure. They didn't give me too much information on why, but I'm pretty sure these athletes have been doing an outstanding jobs in their respective sport. I can say that our softball athlete of the month, Peyton Davis, has been doing an excellent job as our pitcher. And I believe as of right now, our softball team is first in the NWAC conference, which is a great achievement. I think that's our first team this year that's been top of our conference. Brandon Vu, I know, is an excellent tennis player. He's also an excellent classmate. I was a part of student council with him. He's just a great guy to be around. So I don't doubt that he's been doing an excellent job on the tennis team. Christina Doe, a senior, I was also a part of her with on student council. She's a captain, and I believe I've been hearing great things about our women's tennis team. Talon Fury, I haven't heard too much about baseball. I should be paying more attention to that, but I don't doubt that he's also doing a great job. For Alana Allen is our athlete of the month for track. Haven't been paying too much attention to track either, I must say, but I've been hearing that we've been breaking a lot of personal records as a team, and our track team has actually been doing pretty all right. And then finally, our dance athlete of the month is Leanne Ning, and our dance team actually finished fourth at state for, I believe, drill and palm. So that's a great achievement. They actually brought home a few state trophies. And yeah, like I said, it's a quick one this month, but that's all I have. Is there any questions?
No, thank you so much for coming. Any word on college for you?
Yeah, I've been looking at a few opportunities. I think I'm gonna do my first 2 years at Mount Hood so I can
Okay.
stay with the area. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it just makes more sense for me to do the first 2 years at community college, figure my stuff out, and then hopefully I'll transfer out. I'm also been looking at a few internship possibilities for my photography and videography. I've been talking to a few Portland Trailblazer, media members, and they've been helping me out trying to get an internship there, so I could do that as well as going to school. But yeah, that's my plan so far for after college, after high school.
Excellent. Well, we wish you the best.
All right,
Thank
thank
you
you for
for
asking.
joining us.
Thank you for
Yeah.
asking. I wish you guys a wonderful night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great report. Nice job.
Next up in reports is the superintendent's report. Pass it
Right.
over to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So good. It's all good. All right. Good to see everyone this evening. It's hard to believe that there are only a couple of months left in the school year. So we're well into our planning for the 23-24 school year, which you'll see reflected in some of the updates that I'll provide this evening. We're in the process of gearing up for staffing for next year. So yesterday was the Oregon Educator Fair at the Oregon Convention Center, which is the biggest educator fair in the state for the year. Dr. Katsuda coordinated Centennial's presence at the fair, which was attended by most districts in the area, as well as those who are interested in teaching in specialist positions. This can be those who are graduating from college, people who are looking to change districts, or even people who are moving from out of state and want to come and work in Oregon. So one of the first questions I hear after the Oregon Educator Fair is, how many candidates attended? And I can say the honest answer is it was on par with last year's event in that it was fairly sparsely attended. Not to say that there weren't people there. We had people at our booth most of the day. But if we compare it to pre-pandemic, the candidates aren't coming to the degree that they previously were. On that note, though, I want to recognize our principals and administrators that showed up yesterday to interact with candidates. You can see a few of them that are displayed here on the screen. Those are pictures from yesterday. Earlier this afternoon, we held our annual elementary FTE allocation meeting. I imagine most of you are aware what the term FTE means, but just in case, it means full-time equivalent. So when someone says FTE, it basically is a synonym for a teaching position. So Dr. Katsuda, Director Southerton, Park Lane Principal Jorge Antonio Meza, CEA President Amanda Kasab, and I worked together to determine how many FTE or teaching positions would be allocated to our district's elementary schools. Those allocations will be provided to schools in the next couple of days by Director Southerton, and then those principals can share those allocations with their staff within the next week. And we plan to work with principals at the secondary level in the next week or so on their respective allocations. The upcoming biennium state school fund allocation still being unknown, and the sunsetting of pandemic relief funds make the staffing picture a bit more tricky this year. Nevertheless, we intend to have everything determined so that we're able to post any teaching vacancies sometime over the next 4 to 6 weeks. So things are on track. Switching topics from staffing last week, along with other East County School District superintendents, I had the opportunity to meet with the new Multnomah County Chair Vega Peterson. We talked about the status of funding for SUN programming for the fall of 2024. Some of the numbers they had in their proposed budget and some of the calculations we had were a little bit different, so it was a good opportunity to be able to clarify where there were some mismatches there. Funding from Multnomah County in combination with federal 21st Century Community Learning Center grant funds support funding for our Meadows and Centennial High School SUN sites. We also spoke about other school-specific topics such as school-based health support and preschool for all, in addition to topics of general interest that affect our community and students, such as gun violence prevention efforts and the housing crisis. Also, and I heard a little bit of talk before the board meeting this evening, as I mentioned in my weekly email to the board last Friday, this past week, Vice Chair Shields, Director Southerton, Chief Rosales Correa, Principal Miller, who's here as well, and Band Director Bree Thielacker, and I met with representatives from the CHS Awesome Eagle Show Band Alumni Reunion Committee. The purpose of our time together was to discuss ways in which we can support the upcoming reunion effort, which is scheduled for Saturday, I believe it's Saturday, June 10th, 2023. Some ways that we had talked about supporting the reunion effort were different ways to promote the event, which include helping to draft a special interest story for media about the event, social media, and so forth, and then also facility use, equipment use, and instrument use for the event. The reunion weekend coincides with the Rose Festival, so the Awesome Eagle Show Band reunion plans to march in the parade alongside current Centennial students and possibly 8th grade middle school students, which will hopefully help promote pride and encouragement as they enter high school. And if that wasn't enough, the Gresham Historical Society has introduced a new feature on the Awesome Eagle Show Band, which recently debuted and is on the agenda for the reunion weekend. So there's a lot in that couple of days that the reunion group plans to do. I believe that CHS Assistant Principal Laura Scully and Dean of Students Conrad Schumacher were in attendance at the opening night for the new feature at the Gresham Historical Society recently. So I'm sure that Director Andrews might have some thoughts about that too. On the agenda this evening, you will see an action item to approve the award of the Powell Butte, and I see Oliver on there and you're confused, but I'll get there, the Powell Butte Seismic Design and Services Contract. You might think this is the last of your work with seismic, but wait, there's more. Business Oregon awarded 35 seismic rehabilitation grants this week in the 9th round of funding from the Seismic Rehabilitation Grant Program. These competitive grants provide funding for improvements to make buildings that communities depend on in the face of a seismic disaster stronger and safer. So I'm pleased to announce that today we learned that Oliver Middle School was provided a preliminary seismic grant award of $2.5 million. So thank you to Director Southerton and Scott Rose with RNC Management for their work of submitting the application and the work that they will do in overseeing the project which is intended to be done in the summer of 2024. So more exciting projects on the horizon, making our building safer. Okay, I got my slides mixed up. Equity audit. On the strategic planning front, thank you for your time last month as we outlined the draft plan, as well as the integrated guidance requirements for the Oregon Department of Education. As an update to our status, because I think it's important that we know that that wasn't the end point, we're in the process of finishing equity audits at each school site. Some of these were delayed due to inclement weather that had happened in the wintertime. So last week, Butler Creek Elementary, Park Lane Elementary, and Meadows Elementary had their equity audit 2-day site visit. CTC, if I'm correct, Principal Wright had theirs today, and then Pleasant Valley has their site visit today and tomorrow. Next week, we will bring our principals together to examine data from audits that have been completed, analyze surveys from staff, student, and families from the survey that they took, and then begin to formulate school-based continuous action plans based on that data. You may also remember that shortly before spring break, we shared a survey with our community about the strategic plan, and we'll be closing that survey out here shortly. So you may ask, how does all of this come together? Our plan is to take the survey feedback, the results from the equity audits, and then use that to make any strategic plan adjustments, and then also plan year one strategies so that everything can be finalized in June in advance of the coming school year. Did I get that about right, Director Callahan? I like it. All right. Finally, shortly before spring break, the Oregon legislature's lead budget writers proposed a $9.9 billion state school fund, which matches the amount proposed by Governor Tina Kotek. The good news there is that there is alignment with respect to the amount that's being proposed, because sometimes those two amounts don't even match, which is a $400 million increase from the initial recommendation from the state budget office for the 23-25 biennium. That said, and I mentioned this in February when the governor's budget was originally proposed, so it's going to sound like a repeat, it's still $400 million short of the amount that has been calculated to represent the current level of service. So for Centennial to maintain current general fund services and programs will require us to dip into carryover funds to the tune of about $3.5 million, or potentially reduce services to students. There's a place and a time to talk about that, which is next Wednesday at the first budget committee meeting, but I also wanted to state it here as well. Along with others in the Coalition of School Administrators, over the coming week and a half, actually the coming month and a half, we intend to share with legislators the impact of the $9.9 billion state school fund in terms of the budget deficit that is caused. I'll be working with Dr. Katsuda and Director Southerton in the next week to articulate our district's case for a higher state school fund allocation that will be shared throughout COSA to our state legislators. And with that, I welcome any questions or comments you have, and that concludes my superintendent's report.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and move on to our next report. Up next, we have Chris Dow, the OSEA president, with the OSEA report. And we're pulling her up here. Excellent. Welcome, Chris.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. There it goes. I'd like to express my sincere appreciation to all the classified district employees for their hard work and dedication to our students during this challenging time. Despite being short-staffed, they have been working tirelessly to support our students and make sure they are able to navigate their days smoothly. I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that almost all of our classified positions remain unfilled by subs, leaving our staff to cover the work of 2 or 3 people. This situation is putting undue stress on our staff, and they are feeling overwhelmed and exhausted. We're also still losing people to neighboring districts, which is making some of our staff really nervous about next year. That being said, I would like to acknowledge the work groups that have begun this year. They have been well received and are helping our staff feel seen, heard, and valued. We're excited to partner with the district to host our very first equity summit this month, as most of our classified staff have not received any equity training yet. This summit will be an excellent opportunity for our staff to learn and grow in this area. And that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Amanda Kasab, our CEA president, with the CEA report. And we'll get her pulled up here. Welcome, Amanda.
Hello. Thank you so much for the time tonight. I hope everyone is doing well. I wanted to say thank you. As James brought up today, I was part of the FTE group, and I really appreciate the collaboration that has been taking place this year. Communication has definitely been more open and flowing, and I think both ways. So I appreciate that very much. I also want to acknowledge at the state level that the union also is doing a lot of work, no less than 10.3. That's our goal. And so we also are working hard to get that budget up coming up. As far as our schools are going, testing is in full swing at the moment, which always kind of signals the end of the year is drawing near. So some of our schools have started testing already. Others will begin shortly in the next coming weeks. Overall, there's not a lot more to report. So I want to say thank you so much again for your time, and have a good night.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate you being here. Oh, yes. Director
Sorry,
Andrews.
Superintendent Owens, I had a question. Do you mind if we go back to the
Please.
superintendent's report?
Yeah.
Did you talk, did you talk about their, with Jessica Vega Peterson, did you talk about their intention to do more work in the behavioral health area?
We didn't.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Well, I have talked to other county commissioners, and they said that that's an area that they do want to put more emphasis in, and that's why I wondered if it was a subject of conversation at all. It's in the formative stages, as I understand, and I don't think it would hurt if we encourage them to continue to explore and actually do something in that area.
The closest that we came to what you're describing was on the top of community gun violence and talking about preventative strategies that can be done, talking about the efforts that the city of Portland and the city of Gresham have with respect to addressing gang violence in terms of providing opportunities for children and students to have activities to do, and how does the county interface with that, and what is their role in the conversation, and do they have a convening role in terms of helping to promote alignment between jurisdictions that are within the county to enhance collaboration. One of the things I mentioned during that conversation is just the nature of the fact that Centennial straddles multiple jurisdictions, and our experience with different city governments is different depending on who you're liaisoning with. And is there a role for the county to be able to promote consistency in terms of programming and support? So that's along a continuum of the same line, but I don't think it's what exactly you're talking about.
So my conversations have been with regard to the community health centers, the county funded and staffed community health center, and could they provide behavioral health services, not just to our students, but to the community from the community health center. And right now, all the behavioral health issues that our students have as the responsibility of our school counselors, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
School counselors, and then also we have other support such as social workers and so forth. And
Right,
I know
but
Director Wright can
it
speak to
comes
that.
through us, right? It doesn't come through the county. I mean, we hire our own specialists to help out in the behavioral health area, right?
It's nuanced, and I think Director Wright, if you wouldn't mind grabbing a microphone and weighing in, this would be a valuable
Okay,
time.
that would be really good learning for me, especially when you have these conversations, and my understanding is pretty superficial, for sure.
So one, I appreciate you wanting to advocate and to figure out how to bring more resources either to East County or to Centennial specifically. And there are mental health and behavioral health resources available in several different ways. So you had mentioned the school-based health centers. Centennial is one of the school-based health centers that does have a behavioral health nurse, which is really exciting that we do have that resource. So for any of our students who are age 5 through 18, they can access the behavioral health services through the student health center. So that's one aspect of a county service that's provided there. We also contract with Multnomah County for mental health consultants that are provided across many of our schools, not all of our schools, but many of our schools. Then we also contract with Trillium Family Services for mental health services in many, but not all of our schools. We also work with Northwest Family Services for Centennial Middle School and High School. They provide drug and alcohol counseling as well as some suicide prevention and other mental health services. Then we have our school counselors, who a big part of their work is really trying to determine student need and how to refer them to additional services. So they might be referred to our social workers who can provide mental health services, or they may be provided a referral to some of the folks that we're contracting with, or they might be referred out into the community for services. And across Multnomah County as well as the country, there are shortages for mental health providers. And so while the referral might happen, there might be really long wait lists. And so that's also part of what Care Solace is helping to support us with, because that also provides another opportunity for a referral source as well.
Excellent, great summary. Thank you very much, Denise. I appreciate it.
Any other questions at this time before we move to confirmation items? Great, we are moving right along this evening. Next up, confirmation items. At this point, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve them.
Motion to approve the confirmation items?
I'll second.
Great, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Confirmation items have been passed. Instead of taking a break at this point, I propose that we just kind of continue on. Does that sound good, folks? Great. All right, old business, 7.1.1. We've got the revised board meeting calendar.
We're going too fast. Still
Apologies.
getting my,
You needed the break, I'm sorry.
no, it's all good. Good. All right, so we see on the agenda here that we have a revised meeting schedule for the governing board of directors for this school year. I just want to clarify, we're not talking yet about next year. That'll hopefully be at the next meeting. What you'll see reflected are 3 changes on the calendar. One reflects the addition of the March 22nd meeting that we had right before spring break, so that's already done. We've added a May 3rd date. As you may recall, as a component of the equity audit, there is an evening that we are going to spend specifically dedicated to that topic. And so it was decided that we would not try to shoehorn it into a regular board meeting. It deserved its own time. And so that was an added meeting. You see that's reflected in the board meeting calendar. And it was already added to your respective Google calendars. So that's there. The one change to note is that there was a duplication that had happened probably over the summer when there was a school calendar revision that had happened. Usually these things come to the board at the same time, governing board calendar, school calendars, and we can reconcile them. For whatever reason, it was missed that the graduation date changed, which then overlapped board meeting that had already been selected. So graduation is on June 14th, and the board meeting, in order to accommodate for that, is proposed to be adjusted from the 14th to the 7th. So that is the proposal before the board, is to adopt that date change, and then also, while we're at it, just taking the opportunity to reflect those other two date changes that were already determined previously.
I was assuming that June 28th, we would not be having a meeting. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
And I believe that it's on our Google calendars, but it's also, it may be worth amending this, good catch. It may be worth amending this with an asterisk of some sort to indicate if needed. So it's on people's calendars, but only if it's needed.
I won't be here.
I won't either. So hopefully we don't need it.
Fantastic. All right, so can we approve can I hear a motion to approve the revised board meeting calendar?
I move to approve the revised board meeting calendar.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Oh, I need to come back and make sure. Pam, I missed you. Will you give me a thumbs up if that was an aye? Great. Next up, we've got Director Southerton talking about Powell Butte seismic design and services.
Excellent. And bear with me, I'm going to
All right. Good evening, everyone. The administration is recommending the awarding of the design services contract for the grant-based Powell Butte seismic rehabilitation project to ZCS Engineering for the sum of $282,100. You may recall the district was awarded a seismic rehabilitation grant of $2.5 million for Powell Butte Elementary, which the board accepted last year during the annual budget process. The district solicited competitive bids for the design services on October 28, 2022, and there was only a single respondent, ZCS Engineering, which is likely due to the workload of many firms as construction activity remains high, and the fact there are not many firms that specialize in public building seismic improvements. Design will take place this year, with construction scheduled for the summer of 2024. The fee proposed is $282,100, which is within the design budget amount. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approves the award of design services for the Powell Butte seismic upgrades to ZCS Engineering for the fee of $282,100. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you. Are there questions at this time? I see Director Harden and then Director Andrews.
My question is, have we worked with ZCS before? And on which projects? It seems like a new one.
Yeah, we have. We're currently working with them on the Powell Butte, or the Pleasant Valley project. And also we've worked with them throughout the last 2 years to do seismic assessments of all our buildings as part of our TAP grants that we've received from the state. It's a $25,000 grant that allows us to complete assessments of our buildings and then prioritize what buildings need to have seismic upgrades. They also helped us complete the submittals for the last 3 grants that have been approved. So Pleasant Valley, Powell Butte, and recently, as Superintendent Owen said, we were awarded an Oliver elementary or Oliver Middle School grant. So we're familiar with the firm.
Fantastic, thank you.
Director Andrews?
So let's go back to last fall when we had some trouble getting the permits from the city for the Pleasant Valley seismic work, and there was some culpability on both parts. And is this the same design firm that wasn't updating the language that the city had asked to have updated? And so I know that we'll be working with the city of Portland in this case instead of the city of Gresham, but what controls do we have in place to make sure that this firm will actually be responsive to the jurisdictional requests from the city of Portland?
Yeah, that's an excellent decision. And as the board and others are aware of, we have had some issues with the Pleasant Valley seismic improvement project. And we've been working with our partners at the city and also CCS, our partners at the firm, and Scott Rose, our RNC management bond project manager group. And we've had increased oversight in QC, as have the principals at ZCS, to ensure that our submittals are complete, they're accurate, they're updated, and they're doing a more thorough response to requests from Gresham. And I think that was evidenced by the ability to go ahead and get all the permitting approved, our recent change requests, our value engineering requests, which allowed us to change the ways we were doing things to help make up for some of the delay, but still do them in a safe manner, that were recently approved. And then even today, we've reached out to the city on another RFI, or request for information, and both our partners at the city and ZCS are working well together and communicating better, much better than we experienced in the first part of the project. So we've seen a change, and we've also stressed to them that that needs to be continued, and our quality assurance and oversight of their work will continue throughout the Powellview project, if they're awarded.
Director Southerton, Scott Rose is on the call. Do you want him to speak to that question at all?
I think if there's further questions, I'd welcome bringing him in, but if there are not, I think we're okay.
Perfect.
Anything further? Excellent. At this point, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the seismic grant award.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Aye. Excellent. Unanimous vote. The Board of Directors approved the award of the design services for the Powell Butte seismic upgrades to ZCS Engineering and Architecture for the fee $282,000 and $100. 280. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you, Chair Slawski.
Looks like you're up again.
I am, and the next item for your consideration is approval of the guaranteed maximum price contract for the non-bond funded athletic facilities improvement project at Centennial High School. The administration is recommending approval of the guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, in the amount of $2,528,671.53 under the Construction Manager General Contractor, or CMGC, contract with Emmerich Construction Company related to the Centennial High School athletic facilities improvements. The board approved the award of the CMGC contract to Emmerich Construction Company in January of this year. Under that process, Emmerich competitively bid out all the work related to this project on March 15th, leading to a final GMP amount for this work of $2,528,671.53. It's recommended that the Board of Directors approve the award of the GMP in the amount of $2,528,671.53 under the CMGC agreement with Emmerich Construction for the Centennial High School athletic field improvements. And I welcome any questions you may have.
Please.
So is what we're supposedly going to be voting on tonight, does this cover the aspects that the contract work that we awarded Field Turf previously they don't address? They were a very limited contract, as I remember. It was just specifically the couple of items mentioned, and then Emmerich is getting the rest.
Exactly. Thank you so much for asking that question. And to clarify, we direct contracted with Field Turf and with Binen on the track application and on the turf installation. As part of this project, we're also doing seismic improvement to the stadium. We're relocating some bus parking from the parking that we sold on 174th to add parking over to this same parcel at the high school. We're also removing, I believe it's 9,000 or 8,500 cubic yards of dirt from the field, and we're doing rock preparation for drainage improvements to the field before they can apply the turf. We also have some fencing involved and other aspects. So this is all the work that's necessary to prep the site, get it ready, and then do all the work associated with the seismic improvements. I think the board also approved updates to the team rooms, which the various teams use for planning and practices and halftime, and updates to the restroom facilities for spectators and for others there. So this encompasses all that work except for the track application and the actual turf installation, none of the prep work that was previously approved. Thanks for asking the clarifying question.
Director Andrews.
Of course, I'm going to have a question. So is the timing on this, they're going to move in and start working the day after the Centennial Invitational?
Yes, more or less, that is the timing.
Okay.
This major work will occur after the Centennial Invitational. The Centennial Invitational will not be impacted by this work. Folks will notice that we'll start putting up some construction fencing. There will be a haul road coming off of 174 up through the west soccer fields. That kind of dividing line between the soccer field and the baseball diamond, that will be the primary haul road into the site.
Okay.
But spectators will have access to the stadium, athletes will have access. We're coordinating heavily with Dante Gouge, the district-wide athletic director, as well as the coaches for each of the represented sports. And so we are very mindful of the Centennial Invitational. It's one of the biggest track and field events that go on in Oregon, and we're well known for it. And so, yes, we want to make sure that that goes off without any inconvenience or any problem at all.
Right. And then is the expectation that everything will be ready for the football season, for the first home football game? I mean, this is an awful lot of work to get done.
It is. Absolutely.
3.5 months.
The goal is that we will not have to adjust our football schedule, our home games at all. We will have the field, we will have the track, we will have the grandstands ready, understanding that there may be some additional work going on in regards to the bus parking, in regards to demobilizing the back end of the site and the haul roads and things like that. But for all intents and purposes, we will be able to start football season as planned.
And soccer, too.
And soccer. Soccer, actually, I understand we have a home competition with soccer prior to our home competition with football.
Oh.
We do have a backup plan with the Eastside Timbers and Thorns, another community partner of ours. So if we're off of 174th, they have the 3 all-weather fields. So we have booked their facilities as a backup plan if we need to for that soccer event. But we're hopeful that we'll be able to get this done, that the contractors do not have concerns provided we don't have unexpected major weather delays or things like that. We've already secured or are in the process of securing all the long lead items. That's also why we asked the board for approval to direct contact or contract with the track replacement or the turf replacement, so we can get on their schedules early, so we can make sure they've procured all our designs and they're able to provide that, and we've received assurances from them that we have, or that they have. So we feel as confident as we can at this point in time, and we're vigilant and continuing to monitor it so we meet all the deadlines.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think I remember this correctly, but will the load road be impacting any of the spring sports for baseball or anything, any of their home games?
That's an excellent question as well, and no, we don't believe it will. We've, again, coordinated with the soccer coaches, and which has finished their season, and others. Baseball will be unimpacted because it will be south of the baseball field.
Perfect.
So, yeah, we're
Awesome.
a lot of coordination on this, for sure, and definitely appreciate all the coaches involved.
Yeah.
I know there's been a lot of interest in our community and from our student athletes and our coaches for many years on having this turf field, so they're very excited about it. And, there's impacts that we're trying to be mindful of as well. So, and Dante Gouge, our district-wide athletic director, has done a great job as well, so appreciate all the collaboration.
Great, thank you. All right, if there are no other questions, I'll go ahead and ask for a motion.
Motion to approve the award of the contract, CMGC to Emmerich Construction, as recommended.
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
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 Excellent. We have approved the award of the GMP number one and the amount there under the CMGC Emmerich Construction Company for the Centennial High School athletic facilities improvements, including the all-weather field replacement, parking, and stadium upgrades. Congratulations. All right, we are moving on to new business, and I'd love to welcome Director Southerton.
All right, thanks for not running me off yet. I appreciate it. Before you for your consideration is the approval of a special revenue fund for classroom improvements. As our community, the administration and the board and staff have identified there's an ongoing need to maintain and improve district-wide classrooms and learning spaces in Centennial schools. Improvements such as remodeling classrooms to better support learning, replacing furniture and equipment that has exceeded its useful life, improving lighting, and other classroom improvements do not currently have a dedicated funding source and are not completed on a regular schedule, leading to inconsistency, outdated learning space, and reacting to failures before improvements are made. Creating a fund solely dedicated to improving learning spaces for students will allow the district to ensure students have safe, warm, supportive classrooms in which to learn it. Under GASB Statement 54, a special revenue fund such as this and a committed fund balance requires the district to identify specific dedicated revenue sources of which fund transfers do not qualify. The resources must be identified as the primary resource, such as property taxes or other revenue sources. Creating this fund and dedicating 1% of the district state school fund annual allocation to this fund beginning in the 23-24 budget year will help ensure that we reach our district goals of ensuring students have safe, warm, supportive classrooms in which to learn in. While directing dedicated funds to this important work will slightly reduce the funds going into the general fund for the district, it is important to note that we will likewise reduce the expenses of unplanned breakdowns, classroom improvement costs to the general fund, which is estimated to be offset this change by 50 to 75% of the cost in an average year. So while we are looking to move funds out of the general fund into a dedicated separate revenue fund, it's important to know that we're also moving the expenses that would normally be incurred by the general fund. The administration recommends that in recognition of the need to create a classroom improvement fund to maintain and improve district-wide classrooms and learning spaces in service to Centennial students, and in alignment with government accounting standards put forth by GASB Statement 54, the board hereby instructs the superintendent, director of business and operations, and their designee to create a classroom improvement fund in the special revenue funds of the district finance and budget document, and further directs 1% of the district state school fund annual allocation to this funding, or to this fund, beginning in the 23-24 budget year as the specific primary revenue source. I welcome any questions you may have.
Thank you, Director Southerton. At this point, are there any questions?
No questions, but I have a comment. I just like the clarity that what the expenses are going to be and that there is money set aside to go for new equipment, new classroom, improvements. Thank you. And so, yeah, replacing the furniture, it's something that we kind of struggled with in the past is, you know, where's this money coming from? Where's it going? How are we spending it? And so a lot of the furniture in some of the classrooms did become a little more broken down than it should have been. So I appreciate the clarity and I encourage this. Thank you.
Anything else?
I move to approve the creation of the classroom improvement fund.
I'll second.
All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. We now have a classroom improvement fund. Great work. I'm excited to see that.
Thank you very much.
All right. Look, next up, we've got first read of policies with option to adopt DNAR. Director Southerton.
Wonderful. So thank you very much. I was asked by the board and to look at this policy and to see if there was a way that we could explore opportunities to collaborate with our partners, to collaborate with nonprofits, and when we have surplus items, and not always just seek a monetary gain, which is how the current policy is read. So the proposed update is seeking to meet those interests and allowing the district to pursue opportunities for collaboration with our partners and other valuable use of obsolete, unneeded equipment, minor equipment. It does not include the surplus of real property. Just a point of clarification, because the district has declared some real property or real estate as surplus in prior years. And so this policy would not cover that, though there would be numerous board actions required before the district could sell or dispose of real property. It would first have to be declared by the board, and then we would have to seek instructions on how we're disposing of it, what it's going to be used for, are we selling it, and we'd have many, many conversations. So just a point of clarification, because, you know, we've had surplus of real estate in recent years, so want to bring that up. So with that, I will read my prepared note and then welcome any questions you may have. So this policy update is to align the school board policy and administrative regulation language, or AR for the policy, with the direction of the school board by allowing the district, through the administration, to sell or donate outdated, obsolete, surplus, or otherwise unwanted or unneeded damaged equipment and obsolete equipment and supplies, instead of attempting to sell the item prior to allowing for donation. This also updates the policy to be more modern. For example, allowing for other forms of payment besides cash if we are selling the item. The current AR requires cash payment and many other things that are outdated. Please note, as stated previously, this policy applies to what is legally defined as personal and tangible property, such as equipment and supplies. This does not apply to the district-owned real estate. Additional board actions are required prior to being able to sell or dispose of real estate owned by the district. And with that, I'm happy to field any questions you may have. I also can display the policy if that's helpful for people to see. Certainly.
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the work that's been put into this. I think it was a good policy, and I think we were looking to see how else can we see things as value, not just for a dollar amount, but what it can go to in the community. So I think this is a good opportunity to collaborate with the community and help move things along with everybody. Thank you.
Go ahead, Director Andrews.
As I mentioned before, or in a different time that we talked about it, I'm really concerned about collusion, and I'm assuming you'll have the controls in place to avoid that. Now, wasn't there a place where it said, was it just in the policy or somewhere else that it said that employees could only purchase equipment? Was that, or purchase items for disposal?
Yes, and I'm changing over to the administrative rule that accompanies this party.
Yeah, that
or
was
policy.
it. Okay.
Rather.
So my question is pretty simple, which is, are board members considered district employees? Where is that? District- yeah.
Right above the strike through.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, district property may not become the property of district employees except through public sale. So does that include us, board members?
I would need to ask OSBA for clarification.
Okay.
I believe
Because I would like to make sure that it does apply to board members as well.
And I'm happy to make that adjustment if that's proposed by the board. If we'd like to propose an amendment to the AR as presented, I'm happy to write that in. That district property may not become the property of district employees or board members.
Right.
Except through public sale? Would
Right.
that meet the
Unless
interest?
we're considered district employees in some manner.
Right. I think that would just be a clarification, and if it ends up being redundant, I don't think there's any harm to that. So
Okay.
we could go ahead and
Okay,
write
then
that
you
in.
don't need to check with OSBA if you just add that, district employees and board members.
Wonderful. And in the AR, I'll draw your attention to paragraph 2, subtitle B or subsection B, items with a value of over $250, pardon me, are required to be brought forward to the board for approval of that donation. So this is another check and balance, if you will, to make sure that we're
Yeah.
really meeting the interest of the board through this policy.
Yeah.
So if we were to have an item that has a value of over $250, you would see that and have an opportunity to consider approving that donation prior to that donation happening.
I guess I'd just like to add, if that $250 seems, after you've done this for a year or more, and the $250 seems way too much, and we get all these things coming through and confirmation items, that's just like, oh, this is way, we may want to consider raising that amount, just, to see how it works.
And I'm happy to bring it back for adjustment if that's the directive of the board. I'm also happy to make an adjustment now if somebody wants to offer an amendment, another amendment, whichever the board prefers. We're just seeking to meet the interest as expressed.
This is really, I don't know how many items you dispose of that would be a value over $250.
Yeah.
You really have to help us understand, is this going to be frequent? Are we going to see are we going to see requests a lot when you set the level here?
My short answer would be no. And to elaborate on that a little bit, I would say that the district excels at getting the maximum value out of every piece of equipment and supply that we have. We do not have a lot of items that we have left $250 of value
Buses
left in.
maybe, or,
Yeah, you could see scrap buses that are no longer permissible to be on the road or safe for transport to students, and they would have a scrap value. And we've brought those forward in the past, and we usually do that in bulk, right? So we may have 2 or 3 buses over the course of a couple of years that are no longer in service and remain parked, and then when we get 5 or 6 of them, we'll bring them forward as a board action so that it's not every time. And so I don't believe it will be cumbersome at the $250 or be frequent for board consideration at the $250.
Okay, let's give it a try. My personal opinion is let's give it a try and then change it if we see that it's too cumbersome, like you said.
Okay, great. And I have one more point of reference. We had 2 Conex containers that were no longer needed as part of this summer sale. And one sold for $1,500 and one sold for $2,000, if my memory serves me. And those were the only 2 items out of all the surplus sales that we did this summer that were over the $250.
Oh, wow.
So
Oh, okay.
the obsolete, dilapidated, rundown furniture out of Oliver sold, for far less money than $250 per
Right.
piece. And so,
Right.
yeah, I don't think this would be frequent for you all to consider.
Not to split hairs, and I'm okay with clarifications of policy, but my impression is that board members are not district employees simply for the fact that we're elected or appointed. We're not given a paycheck by the district for doing this. This is volunteer. My understanding is the only reimbursement is when we're asked by the district to represent them at something. We get travel expenses, but that's it. But like I said, not my intent to split hairs, but my impression was that we're not considered employees.
That's my impression as well, but before I made that commitment to you all as being fact, I would just research it.
I'd make a motion to approve the policy with the addition, Director Andrews, of board members along with that AR.
Second?
Is there any comments or questions before we move on that from other board members? Great. All those in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Wonderful. Thank you all for your time and thoughtful consideration of all these.
Thank you so much. At this point, we are going to skip over the executive session for just a moment and do future agenda items. And then we will take a short break before we go into executive session.
All right, I've got some future agenda items for our next meeting. Got a lot. So we'll introduce our new Pleasant Valley principal, who was just approved this evening. That's exciting. We also will recognize Teacher Appreciation Week, which will be in early May, but we'll do the proclamation then. We have the 21-22 financial audit report that we're anticipating being able to present with Polly Rogers in late April. The board had asked for an internal report about the Center for Advanced Learning, and so our intention is to be able to provide that later in the month. We also have our bond quarterly report, which we'll have available for you. There's a couple of field trips that the board will have the chance to consider. We also are going year to year still on Centennial Virtual Academy, and so we intend to be able to bring forward to the board a recommendation as far as the potential continuation of the program and for how long. We have a K-12 mathematics adoption, which is in the final vetting stages, and so we anticipate being able to bring that forward to you for consideration. We have responsive classrooms, which is one of our social emotional curriculums that we are doing with unfinished learning funds. There is a year 2 component of that that we are intending to fund through the student investment account, and so we're transitioning out of the federal relief dollars for that. It may be a sole source contract, and so there's a contract over $250,000 for us to potentially bring forward then. We also have calendars for school calendars to bring forward, as well as a draft of the governing meeting calendar for the board. We have 23-24 student fees for the board's consideration, and then also summer program compensation. So our late April meeting will have a lot of ground to cover.
Great.
I meant to say that. I put a star next to it and circled the star and didn't say it. So I didn't say it. It was good. Good catch. Virtual.
It will be virtual, yes. All right, let's go ahead and, oh, please.
So the May 3rd meeting, though, are we going to be virtual or in person?
Dr. Katsuda, our May 3rd meeting, that you're referring to the one that's the special one that we added, is that correct?
Yes.
That is intended to be in person, is that correct? That's right.
Because we're early, right?
I think the deal was if we went to 4 to 5 hours in the evening, or I'm not sure how many hours it was, the condition was we needed to provide dinner. So now I remember it's in person because there's dinner.
Do you think 8:10, what do you think is going to be?
8's good.
8's good?
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and take a break until 8 p.m. When we come back, we will be meeting in executive session pursuant to ORS 192.6602B to consider the dismissal or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent who does not request an open hearing. No decision will be made there. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session. And